Watchtower has been basically lying to the Norwegian government this whole time that they've been receiving this funding, saying that yes, we do meet all of the standards that you've laid out before us.
Can I get your name and where you're from, if you don't mind?
I'm Kai.
Kai, can I get spelling for you?
Straight out of Dogtown, K-A-I.
Hola Chula! Thank you so much for clicking onto this video, and if you are new here, well then hi, hello, my name is Kai, and if you're coming back to my channel, well then, it's great to see you, babe. If you don't follow me on Instagram, then you didn't see that I actually got a new microphone. Feel free to leave me your opinions in the comments down below. Really quick, I just wanted to give you guys a really big thank you because if you didn't notice, I actually hit 2,000 subscribers. That's right, 2K baby. It only took me 2 whole years. That's a different conversation. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate everyone who comments. It's wonderful to see a lot of familiar faces in the comment section. That really warms my heart. And honestly, I couldn't do any of this without you. I mean, literally, well, I wouldn't have any subscribers without you, but I just mean everyone has been so supportive of me, especially as I've been making some transitions in my life, and I just really appreciate your patience and honestly your grace, because I did not deserve that, but you gave that to me anyway, and that will always mean the most to me. So what we are going to be talking about today is actually some really exciting news coming out of the XJW community. I'm not really the type of channel that keeps up with all these current events, things that are happening in the here and now, but I think that this is actually really important. It's a really huge development and kind of something unprecedented that we haven't really seen before. And that is that in the country of Norway, the Jehovah's Witnesses organization has had their government funding stripped away. They no longer have the right to be granted this money from the government, you know, those evil, worldly governments that they talk about so frequently. They had that taken away. It's gone. They said, Norway, Jose, we refuse. So of course there are some standards that an organization has to abide by in order for the government to find them fit to have this money. And these are pretty straightforward rules. Like for instance, you can't advocate for violence or hate speech, and you're not allowed to threaten the rights or freedom of any person who wishes to leave your religion or your organization. On paper, those things seem pretty straightforward. The government is not just going to give you money if you're acting, you know, if you're wilding out, if you're an evil corporation masquerading as a charitable organization. Well, they're gonna find that out and they're gonna take that money away from you because obviously you don't deserve it. The Jehovah's Witnesses do not even account for more than 15,000 of the general population. But they are they were receiving about $1 million in worldly government funds, or like $140 per person. Be no part of the world unless they're offering you a handout, I guess. So how did this all happen? Because obviously they were receiving these funds for a very long time, and they even said as much that they have been practicing their religion in that country for about 100 years, over 100 years now, and they've never had any issues. Well, in 2021, the Norwegian government received 2 separate letters from 2 different people, 2 whistleblowers, who were telling them that the Jehovah's Witnesses actually were violating their standards for these specific organizations that are receiving this money. In that when a person tries to leave their organization, they shun them. They go up on stage and they make an announcement and say that XY whatever is no longer a Jehovah's Witness. And in the minds of every single person that is in that audience or listening into that announcement, you become dead to them. If you have a family that is in the organization, you're dead to them. All of the friends that you make, everyone that you know, possibly people who have watched you grow up, you mean nothing. You're of the world now. You're part of Satan's system now. And it comes across really callous and cold in the delivery because it's just kind of business as usual, even though it's an incredibly inhumane practice and actually leads to many people suffering with severe mental illness and can even push someone to do something that they just can't undo. I'm going to assume that most people in my audience are familiar, but just in case you are new here, basically the Jehovah's Witnesses have this practice called disfellowshipping. And what that means is that if a person has committed a sin and they are found to be unrepentant by 3 different elders, 3 old men typically, they get to determine the outcome of your life, the outcome of your spiritual life, which in their eyes is more important than your real, actual life. What they're doing when they disfellowship you is condemning you. They're condemning you to die in Armageddon and be forgotten by everyone you ever knew for the rest of eternity because your status has been demoted. And you're suddenly so much lesser than. And even if you attempt to be reinstated, then you'll be put through this process of still being shunned, still no one's allowed to talk to you, but you have to sit in the back of the room. Or I've heard sometimes they make you walk all the way to the front just to embarrass you a little bit more, I guess. But you sit in the back of the hall typically and you watch everyone interact with people around you and you can hear their conversations and maybe one of them actually looks you in your face and denies that you're a human who needs human interaction just like anyone else. And most of the time, because being a Jehovah's Witness is so all-encompassing of your life and you're not allowed to establish relationships or at least meaningful relationships with people outside of the organization, when that support group is the only support group that you have, well, I don't think it takes a genius to know what's going to happen next. That person is going to begin to become isolated and depressed and probably mentally ill. I myself am not disfellowshipped, but I have known people and been related to people who were. And it's so weird. It's just really unnatural. And even if you go against the grain and you do talk to those people, well, you feel guilt and you feel shame, and it's like you could be disfellowshipped for doing that. You can be removed from the congregation if you're willfully associating with people who are no longer in. When the Norwegian government found this out and discovered the huge impact that this is having on members of the XJW community, they were like, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. And Watchtower was like, well, we've been doing it for so long. And the government was like, well, we didn't know. But now that we know, you can't do that. And they gave them so many opportunities to change their doctrine, to change their practices, to not shun people who wanted to leave, or they were going to have this money taken away. So they were given an opportunity to change, and guess what? They didn't do it. They didn't do it because of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. They didn't do it because they feel like they are God's one true religion, and everything that they believe is how it should be done everywhere else. And when someone doesn't subscribe to their mentality, then suddenly they're being persecuted. And oh my God, this is Satan's system coming after us. See, we were right. All along, what we've been telling you, it's happening. It's like when somebody tells you that you're losing this funding and you could so easily do something to prevent that from happening, and you don't do it. well then that's on you. The Norwegian government never said that they couldn't necessarily do it, but they couldn't do that and also receive this money. And Watchtower obviously chose to stay the same. And then they were like surprised Pikachu face when the government was like, okay, well then we're gonna revoke this funding. And what do you think Watchtower did when they heard that this decision had been made? Well, they went to the broadcast center, flipped on the camera, forced Anthony Morris to drink 2 cups of coffee after his bender last night, and drug him out to say some really horrible things. I'm gonna play the clip for you guys, we'll watch it together. But I just find his response and their delivery of this message to be incredibly manipulative and annoying. It's irritating, okay? When I first saw this...
Recently, the government of Norway decided that Jehovah's Witnesses would no longer receive certain state benefits that are provided to all registered religions. Here to explain more about this is Brother 𝗟𝗶𝗡 𝗏𝗀.
We were shocked when we received a letter from government authorities in Oslo, Norway, threatening to remove our registration as a religious community. Jehovah's Witnesses have been actively preaching the good news in Norway for more than 120 years. In fact, Jehovah's Witnesses suffered for their faith under the Nazi occupation of Norway during World War II. Commenting on how Jehovah's Witnesses were the only religious group who stood firm against the Nazis,
You what?
a previous minister for religion exclaimed, "People throughout the country should know about this. Especially young ones would benefit from this information." We've always been known as good citizens. In fact, a public report stated that Jehovah's Witnesses are careful to obey the laws of the land. Now they've suspended our grants, while there are over 700 religious communities who continue to receive such state benefits. This decision is unconstitutional and an unprecedented attack on religious freedom in Norway. With the assistance of the newly established Freedom of Worship Office, we're pursuing legal remedies. At the same time, we're pursuing dialogue with government officials, and we pray that this situation will be amicably resolved.
Thank you, Brother Pedersen. The authorities in Norway have threatened to remove our legal registration because of our scriptural beliefs and practices regarding disfellowshipping. In the future, various governments will challenge our freedom of worship. They may pressure us to change our scriptural beliefs, but we're certainly not going to do that.
Alright, wasn't that awful? So I hope that it's apparent as to why that was so irritating to me in the first place. It's like Watchtower thinks that their people are stupid. And I guess when they're forbidden from checking out any other resources or learning anything about the organization outside of what they produce, well then, yeah, I mean, they could sell them anything, and most of them are gonna buy it. Watchtower is blatantly manipulating the actual situation in order to frame it in a light that, favors them and makes them seem like the poor victim. The governments are coming after us, you guys. They're persecuting us because the end is near. And they said that this would happen. We said that this would happen. And this is evidence that they can use to reinforce some people's faith. They built a whole office. They literally, have you ever been bullied so hard that you went out and you built a whole brand new office? So let's clarify the situation with all the facts that we have in hand. First, Watchtower has been basically lying to the Norwegian government this whole time that they've been receiving this funding, saying that yes, we do meet all of the standards that you've laid out before us. And when it was brought to the attention of the Norwegian government Then they turned around and actually gave them an opportunity to change and keep this funding that they supposedly need so badly. Even though when it comes to your financial situation, you're told to rely on Jehovah and know that he will handle the matter some way, somehow, without actually ever giving any concrete provision for the people that are in their community. And I think it's kind of funny how Watchtower was so willing to accept this money from a worldly, satanic government. I don't even know if anyone is questioning that. Do they not ever wonder? Do they not ever think like, well, why would Jehovah's clean and perfect and pure organization be dealing so intimately, in a way, with a worldly government? The government said, well, you can do that if you want, but we refuse to support that. And that is the most important thing that I think they could have done. Would it have been ideal for Watchtower to change their policy on shunning and actually come out and say, that was the old me, welcome to the new me? Yeah, duh, but they didn't. And now they just don't have access to this money. And the way that they're telling their members, it seems like their actual beliefs and the right for them to have those beliefs is being challenged, when it's very much not. The government is just saying, well, we're not going to monetarily support the abuse of people. And Watchtower is like, well, why? You know, acting like a petulant child, basically, you know, stamping their feet when they don't get their way. I do think that what this will do moving forward is bring a lot more negative attention to them. When, like this video that we just saw said, their public perception has been typically very positive for a long time. And so when people like myself, when people like other activists in the XJW community come forward, people are shocked, they're amazed, because like, oh my God, they're just like such nice people. And granted, yeah, individual Jehovah's Witnesses are very nice, but the leaders, the people that actually are in charge of forming their faith, their doctrine, I think those are some pretty nefarious actors who deserve to be called out on their absolute bullshit. The Jehovah's Witnesses are trying to prepare legal action against the Norwegian government, saying that we deserve this money. And we're gonna believe what we're gonna believe and do what we do, because we will never compromise on biblical standards. What else do you expect? In response to this, the Norwegian government is very steadfast in upholding that they won't give this money to them if Watchtower is actually able to bring it in front of a judge or in front of a court, however they do it. I find it really difficult to believe that a judge would say, yeah, you're right. You should have the right to shun people and hold them emotionally hostage, knowing that if they ever did leave, that they would be shunned. So I just, I don't know what person in their right mind is going to say, yeah, that's totally fine, totally your religious freedom. It is their right to function their organization however they want, but sometimes just because something is legal doesn't mean that it's also moral. At the end of the day, I think that this is very much another situation for them to manipulate to their members as a sign that, yeah, these are the governments that are going to be coming after us, even though their theology teaches that the governments are going to turn on other organized religions first, and then focus on the witnesses when they are proven to be God's chosen people. I mean, that's what they've said in publication after publication. It's even in the bunker videos. Someone says that, like, verbatim. So for them to use this situation is actually kind of contradictory to what even they believe. How do you explain that? All of my opinions are formed around my experiences, or a lot of them are at least, and in my experience, these kinds of situations bring people closer to their faith, into their indoctrination, and not so much out of it, even though I do think that there will be people who do start to question because of the situation. I think that more people are going to buy into the fact that, yes, this is worldly persecution of God's one true chosen people. I don't know how you can really, deadass be committing crimes against humanity and then be like, but pay me, pay it up.
Money me. Money now. Me a money needing a lot now.
How do you even say that with your whole chest? Like, truly, really, like, I mean, the audacity is impeccable. But yeah, that was just my thoughts, just my opinion, and just my video. So if you like this video, then you can leave it a like. And if you like me, well then you can subscribe to this channel where I will be talking about whatever I want, whenever I want, because this is my channel. And that's what we do here, baby. So subscribe! As always, chulas, I hope that you are having a beautiful, wonderful, amazing rest of your day.